Hello, welcome back to Using the Eclipse Workbench. Has this ever happened to you? You're writing a document and the computer crashes before you'd saved your file, so you lose some or all of your work. This has happened many times to me over the years. So now I always try to press the keyboard shortcut Control-S to save my document every time I type something. Now if I had to press the Save button or use the menu to save, my frequent saving habit would take a lot of extra time. But typing Control-S is quick and it has saved me a lot of lost work and frustration. In this lesson, we're going to learn about a number of keyboard shortcuts in Eclipse. We'll also learn how to create a new keyboard shortcut. Now, we can use Eclipse perfectly well without ever using a keyboard shortcut. However, the more we use Eclipse, the more time we can save by learning even a few keyboard shortcuts for common tasks. The most important shortcut for getting started is the shortcut that helps us find other shortcuts. Here we have Eclipse started where we left off in the last lesson with the text file open for editing. Let's type Ctrl plus Shift plus L. This pops up a window that shows all of the available shortcuts. As you can see, there are quite a few. We can also execute shortcuts from here. For example, if we scroll down to Find and Replace and double click, that opens up the Find and Replace dialog. Now let's try Ctrl-Shift-L again. If we look down here, we can see it says press Ctrl-Shift-L to open the preference page. Let's try that. So we'll press Ctrl-Shift-L a second time, and we can see that we've opened the Preferences page under Window, Preferences, General, Keys. And we see here, again, we have a list of all of the keys, this time inside this dialog. We'll come back to this screen a little later when we customize our shortcuts. But while we're in here right now, let's look at a very handy feature of this screen. Note that we can sort this list by clicking on these column headings. So for example, if we click on the Binding heading, we sort the list by the key binding. So if we want to look up what a shortcut key does, say Ctrl-Shift-L, we can scroll down the list until we get to Ctrl-Shift-L, and we can see it says Show Key Assist, Ctrl-Shift-L, in Dialogs in Windows, and it's under the category Window. So we can use this screen to quickly find what a particular keystroke does, as well as to find by command. As we saw, there are many shortcut keys available in Eclipse. If you spend a lot of time working with Eclipse and you're very fast with the keyboard, it's often quicker to use the keyboard than it is to use the mouse. This is especially true if a command is used frequently. With this in mind, let's go through some of the most useful shortcuts. One handy one is Control-M for maximize. For example, if we're here in an edit window and we press Control-M, it maximizes the edit window, and a second time toggles it back to restored mode. While editing files, there are a number of very useful shortcuts. Probably the most important is Control-Z to undo. For example, if we type some more text or make some other kind of change, we can just undo this with Control-Z, which is the same as the edit undo. Now let's take a look at some other editing shortcut keys. If we put the cursor on a line of text and then press Alt plus the up arrow, the entire line is moved up one line. Alt plus the down arrow, as you might expect, reverses this operation. We can do the same operation with multiple lines. If we select 3 lines, hit Alt up arrow, it moves all 3 lines up or down. If we do Control Alt up arrow, it copies the current line or the selection of multiple lines up above. So for example, if we do Control Alt up arrow, it made a copy of the line we were on and pasted it in just above that line. And if we did a selection of lines and then do Control Alt down, it copies the entire selection to just below where we were. And then of course we can undo this with 2 Control Z's. As with mini editors, we can move a word at a time using Control Left or Control Right, and we can select words using Control Shift Left or Control Shift Right. For example, if we press Control Shift Right, we select the next word, and if we keep pressing it, we keep selecting the additional word or adding the next word to our selection. We can delete the current line just by pressing Control D. I'll press Control Z to undo it. We can delete from the cursor position to the end of the line by going Control plus Shift plus Delete. And again, we'll undo with the Control Z. Now, as with many editors, Control F opens up the Find and Replace dialog. Here's another way to find text in an Eclipse editor. Let's click at the top of the file and press Control plus J. Notice down in the lower status bar it says Incremental Find. Now, as we type letters, the editor will find the first occurrence of the particular letter. So if we type I, D, I, it finds the first occurrence of those letters automatically for us. If we want to search in the portion of the file above where the cursor is, we can do Control Shift J, and now the reverse incremental find message appears. And again, if we type letters like O, U, T, it finds the first occurrence of those letters above the cursor position. And notice it shows the letters as we're typing down in the status bar. Next, let's look at a very cool Eclipse editor trick called Quick Diff. We invoke this by pressing Control-Shift-Q before we make a change to the file. So we'll press Control-Shift-Q, and notice we now have this small vertical space to the left of the edit area, and we'll see about that in a minute. Next, we'll go to this line that says signifying nothing and make a small editing change. Say nothing much of importance. If we hover the mouse on this little rectangle, we see the original version of the line before we made our edits. So before it said signifying nothing, and now it says signifying nothing much of importance. So we can quickly see what the original version was before the edits. And notice we can, if we want to bring this into focus, we can press F2 to create a permanent pop-up window. Pressing Escape or clicking somewhere makes the window go away. Now the Quick Diff is reset when we save the file. For example, if we go Control S, which is a shortcut for saving the file, we still have the Quick Diff vertical bar, but now our purple rectangle has gone away because there's no Quick Diff anymore. And again, we can toggle the Quick Diff on and off by just pressing it a second time. So another Control-Shift-Q, and our Quick Diff bar goes away. If we want to go back to the original, of course, we can press Control-Z a couple times, and we're back to our original version. Let's look at the Control-Shift-F command, which is a format command. Let's press Control-Shift-L once to show the pop-up and a second time to go to the Preferences page. We'll sort by binding key and go down to Control-Shift-F. And notice the format command has three different entries, one for editing ANT build files, one for editing in structured text editors, and one for editing Java source. Now, editors in Eclipse can either be freeform, like the text editor, or structured, like the XML editor. Let's go to our XML file and try the format command, the Control-Shift-F. So we'll press OK here. Now, just for fun, to go to our XML file, let's use quick access. So we'll press Control-3, type XML, and notice that the very first entry is our XML file. So if we press that, we open up our XML file. And let's try Control-Shift-F. Notice that this reformats the file according to the preferences that we have set up for the XML editor. To see this, let's go to Window, Preferences, Web and XML, XML file source, and we see right now we have indent using tabs selected. If we change this to indent using spaces and have indentation size equal to 1, press OK. Now if we go back to the file and go Control-Shift-F, it reformats, but it reformats where it indents each sub-element only one space instead of using tabs. Now another handy shortcut key is Control-E. If we press Control-E when we're editing, it pops up this list of currently open files for editing to make it quick to find a particular file. Now some shortcut keys require an additional keystroke. For these, we can press the first part of the key, wait a minute, and the options below that display. For example, let's press Alt-Shift-Q, and we see that we've got a number of options that all start with Alt-Shift-Q and then have an additional key. And to select the one, we can either press the last key or we can select it off the list with the mouse. So for example, to open the console, we could either double click here or press C and it opens the console view. At this point, we've covered a lot of shortcut keys. The key thing to remember is Control-Shift-L, and from there you can find the commands you need. Even though Eclipse has many keyboard shortcuts already defined, some commands don't have shortcuts. Fortunately, it's easy to create a keyboard shortcut for a command that doesn't have one. To see this, let's create a new shortcut key for Edit Close Others. Remember from earlier that if we right-click on a tab, one of our options is to close other files, so leave this file open and close all of the other ones. Now by default, this does not have a shortcut key assigned in Eclipse, so we'll change that. We can either go Window, Preferences, General, Keys, or of course we could have pressed Control-Shift-L twice. Either way, it takes us to this screen. If we go down to the Close command, we don't have an option for Close Others. That's because this Include Unbound Commands option isn't checked. If we check that option, now we list all the commands that could be bound to a key, whether they are or not. So now if we scroll down, we see Close Others. Now let's assign the shortcut key Control plus Alt plus C. Now if we want to be careful, we can click on the binding column to sort by binding, and we can make sure that Control Alt C is not used. So if we scroll down here, we can see we've got Control Alt down and Control Alt G. So Control Alt C is not assigned. So we'll go back here, again sort by command, come up find Close Others, and all we do to assign it is click in the binding text box and then carefully type Control-Alt-C, and it puts it in the binding. It adds it up here, and if we now press OK, we've assigned that to that shortcut. So now we should be able to, while editing a file, press Control-Alt-C. Since we've made changes, it asks if we want to save it. We'll say yes. And it closes the other two files and keeps the current file open, which is what we would want. In this lesson, we've seen a number of built-in keyboard shortcuts and learned how to create a new shortcut. In the next lesson, we'll do a little more work with keyboard shortcuts. Then we'll look at how we can save our Eclipse customizations so we can easily reuse them. Finally, we'll look at the very cool Eclipse Compare Editor, which allows us to see and manage differences between versions of files. This is the end of Lesson 5. I'm Mark Dexter saying, so long for now.